So as the next speaker, I will invite Dr. CHOUNG Choung-ho from Korea Register. He studied shipbuilding and marine engineering, and he got the doctor degree from the KAIST in 2018. And he has worked in KR about 18 years in the area of risk and safety analysis. Now he is working as the leader of the system safety research team of KR. So please give a big hand, expecting good presentation about the area of the safety and regulation.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I am CHOUNG Choung-ho from Korean Register. Through the two presentations before, we have looked into the SMR and what kind of roles it can play in the maritime sector. And now, along with that, with the third presentation, I would like to talk about what kind of challenges we will face and we have to overcome in order to successfully commercialize nuclear-powered merchant ships, especially in relation with the regulations. So I'm not going to talk about very technical stuff. Rather, I will talk about more common challenges that we have to overcome to see actual realization of nuclear-powered merchant ships. Here you see the contents of my presentation. So my presentation will consist of two parts. The first part is about the nuclear-powered merchant ships and what kind of challenges we have to overcome to realize that. So overall, I believe we have to overcome 5 challenges. So I briefly explain each of them. And we have some regulations for nuclear-powered merchant ships. So I briefly touch upon what kind of conventions or rules and regulations exist. Let's go back to the past. Except for Russia, there were no nuclear power ships currently that are pursuing currently. But in the past, we had nuclear power ships. So the first one was the Savannah. So it started its service in 1962 and completed until 1972. And as mentioned by Dr. Patrick Lyon, it is now being used as a museum. So the commercialization actually failed for this ship because of the low economic feasibility as well as the low reliability. And also there were some conflicts among the crew. So because of these reasons, the Savannah failed to be commercialized. And second ship is the Otto Hahn, launched by Germany. And it's a more like an experimental nuclear power ship. And it was in service for about 10 years. And then it was reformed and then discarded in 2009. So it traveled various countries. However, oftentimes its docking was denied. And so it has a very limited shipping routes. And also the OPEX is just enormous that the commercialization was not made possible. And the third ship that I would like to talk about is the Muchu, launched by Japan. And it never succeeded the commercial operation. Until 1992, for about 20 years, it only did the test run. And prior to the test, it actually experienced the radioactivity leakage accident. And so because of the strong civil complaints as well as the resistance from the nearby residents and the fishermen, it could not be commercialized. So based on these 3 cases, maybe we can come up with some 5 challenges that we have to overcome. So let me elaborate each of them. The first one is about cost effectiveness, as well as the applicability reliability in marine sectors. And for this, we have to develop effective SMRs. Various types of SMRs now under development. So I believe in the not too distant future, we'll be able to have some practical solutions for SMR that we can use and apply in the marine sector. And here you see one of the research projects. So it compares the diesel and LNG, CAPEX and OPEX. And you can see that within 10 to 15 years, the break-even point would be reached, and so-called the crossover will occur between diesel and LNG and nuclear. And also for the nuclear power ship operation, we really have to have an innovative thinking for operation. So in the existing vessels, we have to think about the interests of different stakeholders, including the government, shipbuilders, ship owners, and so on. But with the involvement of the nuclear reactor, you see that again, there will be some new entities being involved. For example, like we have to comply with the restriction of the non-nuclear proliferation. And also we have to prepare for potential safety accident. And therefore, we have to have a completely new concept of operation for nuclear power ships. So that model has to be developed together with the regulation. And the third one that we have to overcome is the public acceptance. In fact, the public has a very strong fear and resistance for nuclear-based ships. Let's say that the hundreds of nuclear power ships are journeying in the sea every day. This is something that the public would not find easy to accept. And therefore, in order to enhance public acceptance level, we have to make improvement both in terms of the regulation and also technology. And also we have to promote and raise the public awareness so that they can trust the radioactive, or rather the nuclear technology. And as Patrick mentioned, for the ship, the IMO convention is the basic regulation. And the countries around the world, they have uniformed regulations for the cross-border operation based on IMO convention. What about the nuclear industry? In fact, each government has the different regulation, and they are independent from each other. However, we have to have the unified approaches for the maritime regulation as well as the nuclear regulation. Only then we'll be able to ensure free navigation and port entry for nuclear power ships. And therefore, from early in the beginning, we have to take these two-pronged approaches. Also, we have to secure safe technology early on. For the nuclear sectors, the TID, or PSOM. So they have their own safety assessment technologies. What about the shipbuilding? We have the IMO and FSO and various risk assessment technologies to validate the safety. And for offshore plant, again, we have the QRA and production layers as well as the seals. So through these studies, again, the safety is verified. And so here you see that we have different risk assessment tools and regulations in all these three sectors. And so for the nuclear power ships, we have to combine these regulations in a more unified manner. So I believe that this really requires a lot of time for us to overcome these challenges. And these 5 challenges are not exclusive, rather they are interconnected and interrelated. For example, like the safety assessment, this will be the core for regulation, and also this could be crucial for developing a new concept of operation. So you can see that these 5 challenges are somehow interconnected and interrelated. So we have to take them, all of them, into account to push for new technologies. Now, I would like to talk about the regulatory status. So there are about 5 regulations in relation with the nuclear-powered merchant ships. So I will briefly talk about what kind of regulations are there and what they talk about. The first is the IMO Convention and Code. This is the basic code for ship operation. So through the SOLAS and the nuclear ship code, you see that the ships traveling between borders are subject to these conventions and codes. And so we have the SOLAS Chapter 8, and then in 1981, the Nuclear Ship Code became effective. So based on IMO Convention, countries around the world have established the basic regulations to govern the nuclear power ship operation. And in Korea, we have a nuclear ship regulation announced in 2020, and UK also came up with the merchant shipping nuclear ship regulation in 2022, and marine guidance note for nuclear ships in 2022. But aside from these three laws, there are no national regulations as far as I know. So let's take a look at the SOLAS 1974, the IMO Convention, Chapter 8. And it consists of 12 regulations, and it covers only the nuclear-powered merchant ships. It only covers merchant ships powered by nuclear energy. And it basically stipulates the basic principles for the reactor installation approval, and also the suitability for services on board ship. And also it talks about how to ensure no nuclear hazards and approval of safety assessment. So it's sort of the declaration in principles. And such principles are specified in the Code of Safety for Nuclear Merchant Ships. And it has over 100 pages, consisting of 8 chapters and 6 appendices. So it covers huge content, and it's mainly about the pressurized light water reactor system. And also it's based on the philosophy of the DID, or Defense in Depth concept. Next is the UK regulation that came out in 2022, which is the Merchant Shipping Regulation. And it is to implement SOLAS Chapter 8 and Nuclear Code, so it has more specified details. And it is applicable to commercial ships, UK flagged or that travel within UK waters. And so it has about 20 pages of content, comprised with 6 parts and 34 articles. So, and the approval right is with the Secretary of State in the UK. And also it specifies some documents on board, including safety certificates, crew certificates, and safety assessment. And what's unique about this regulation is that for the work in relation with the ground, for example, like berthing or loading, it says that it has to comply with the nuclear code or radioactive regulation in the UK. And now this is the guidance note, again published and announced by the UK government. And it basically provides guidance for the application of the merchant shipping regulation. And also it actively utilized the nuclear codes that are originally generated from the IMO SOLAS. And it also defined clearly the role of UK nuclear regulator and other relevant bodies. And also it talks about the safety assessment, QA program, operating manual, radiation safety, and manning in a very detailed manner. Last but not least, I would like to introduce to you the Korea's nuclear ship regulation. So it consists of 19 articles, and it only has 2 pages. It's not long. So based on SOLAS, Korea developed the 2-page law And in terms of the content, I think it's very similar to the UK regulation. And I think more details have to be developed for this law. So far I have talked about the 5 regulations, and they are based on, and as for the IMO SOLAS and the nuclear code, it has a long history of 30 years. And many governments across the world have not established the relevant laws for nuclear-powered merchant ships. So what we have to do in the future, of course, we have to develop more specific details for safety requirements, and also we have to develop and adopt some new innovative technologies aside from the light water reactor, like the molten salt reactor and so on. And also we have to clearly define R&R for ship owners and the operators, as well as the operators of ships and operators of reactors. So again, for this, we have to develop regulation. And also for the nuclear fuel supply chain, again, that has to be defined in a more specific manner. So this will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
네, 팀장님 발표 고맙습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I would like to thank all our 3 speakers for their insightful and informative presentations. We will continue with the panel discussion. We'll arrange the sittings, and after we arrange the sitting, then we will continue with the panel discussion. Thank you.